was the vice principal of Hubli Ayurveda College long back, and he was a freedom fighter. He was known widely across the country as a popular person for the painless tooth extraction. Today morning session, we had the inaugural function wherein the registrar of the Kerala University of Health Sciences, Dr. A.K. Manoj Kumar, was the inaugurator and chief guest. Then the guest of honor was Dr. Santosh Edalni, deputy registrar of the prestigious RGHS Bangalore. And we have three eminent speakers. Already one speaker completed his talk in the morning, Dr. Gopi Krishna, on cancer management. And WHO is looking for communicable and non-communicable disorders. That is the basic division and classification of disease. So we have chosen lifestyle disorder management, wherein the non-communicable problems and current issues like non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, lipidemus, or etc. need to be addressed. So probably in this pandemic situation, people are worried and only regarding the infective conditions, but regarding their lifestyle, their exercises, their diet, etc., they are least bothered. So this is the high time wherein Dr. Prasanna Kerur, who is an expert practitioner, clinician, academician, and researcher, presently practicing at United Kingdom. So I hand over the mic to Dr. Kavyasri.
Now, our second session begins with the topic Lifestyle Disorders Management According to Ayurvedic Principles by Dr. Prasanna Kerur. Dr. Prasanna Kerur is an Ayurvedic consultant, has accumulated a wealth of knowledge and professional expertise over the past 24 years in the field of Ayurveda, both as a teacher and a physician at an international level. He has earned his BMS degree from SDM College of Ayurveda, Udupi, under Mangalore University, and Doctor of Medicine in Ayurveda, Kai Chikitsa from AMV Hubli, under Rajiv Gandhi University of Health Science, Bangalore, India. Sir has worked as a consultant and teaching faculty at several Ayurvedic institutions and hospitals in India, including SDM College of Ayurveda and Hospital, Hassan. He has also worked as a faculty to teach Ayurveda on both undergraduate and postgraduate programs at Middlesex University and Ealing University in London. He was an Ayurvedic consultant for Ayurvedic Clinic in central London as well. Sir has been working as an Ayurvedic physician for the past 14 years at the Ayush Wellness Center in Jersey, Channel Islands, United Kingdom, set on the foundation of Ayurvedic healing therapies, advocating and promoting balance of mind, body, and spirit. He provides specialized Ayurvedic consultations and treatments along with a dedicated team of Ayurvedic therapists. He is one of the directors of the Ayurveda Gurukul UK Limited, London, providing continued professional Ayurveda education and expertise. Sir is also a senior consultant for one of the UK's leading healthcare supplement company and involved currently with them in a project to bring an exclusive Ayurvedic range. He has also been teaching Ayurveda to the European students in Paris. He has also been involved in providing continued professional development programs for Ayurvedic students, practitioners, and doctors in the UK, Europe, and India. He has been invited speaker on various international conferences in the United Kingdom, France, Malta, and India. Dr. Prasanna has been featured in various periodicals and presented radio talks on Ayurveda on All India Radio and BBC London. Regarding the topic, lifestyle diseases are ailments that are primarily based on the day-to-day habits of people. According to Ayurveda, those diseases due to pragnaparada or asatmya indriyartha samyoga, which results in disharmony in the body, either as increase or decrease of dosha, are the lifestyle disease. Dosha dhatu mala moolam hi shariram. Maintenance of equilibrium of dosha, dhatu, and mala by practicing dinacharya, rutucharya, sadvritta, etc. One can maintain these basic elements and can sustain one's health and prevent the disorders. Now, here is our resource person to elaborate this introduction with his experience and knowledgeable words. I request Dr. Prasanna sir to please continue the session.
Thank you. My beloved gratitude to all the organizers and especially my teacher, Dr. Prashant sir. He has been my co-guide during my postgraduate studies and guided me not only on my thesis but throughout my career in my postgraduate um, uh, life. Um, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, remembering the greatest of the great gurus and remembering all the teachers who have contributed in shaping us to the shape we are in at the moment. Um, the topic I have been given is about the principles of the lifestyle disorders and their management through Ayurvedic principles. Let me just open my presentation. I hope that is visible for everyone.
Yes, sir. It is visible, sir.
Perfect.
Yes.
Great. Now, the lifestyle disorders and their prevention and management, it's a massive topic on its own because I'll try to do my justice in this short period of time of about an hour and plus, as I understand I have got. It's as I said, it's a broad umbrella, the lifestyle disorders. The lifestyle disorders are any disorders which could be apart from the infectious origin and mostly related to our behaviors, how we carry out our day-to-day activities. What I have tried to do today is to put few questions to myself and to the audience. And also let me begin with saying that I'm not here to teach, but I'm here to kind of share my ideas and what is already there as a knowledge, set of knowledge, both in the contemporary concepts as well as our own Ayurvedic concepts. I believe students will be more benefited. It is not targeted for teachers or anything like that. If I could spark an interest in them, in teachers, to look towards this side of the angle to treat, as well as to practically implement certain things, I would say my job is, a bit fulfilled for today. So a few questions I have posted there. What is a lifestyle disorder? The question is whether it is a new concept. It is seen as a new concept in the last few decades, at least in the contemporary era, but whether it is really a new concept. And most importantly, what would be the impact of the lifestyle related disorders? So we will be, to shorten it, we will be calling it as LSD. It makes it a bit quicker rather than saying each time lifestyle disorders. So what would be the impact on the individual who is suffering from it, as well as people around them, and as a society, as a nation, or as a world, as a globe, as a whole. What are the most common lifestyle factors which cause these diseases? To understand them, once we understand the nidanas, it becomes easier to deal with them. What are the most common lifestyle disorders we see around us in our practice? Are they preventable or are they manageable? If they are, to what extent we can manage them, and how do we manage them? And how do we understand these LSDs through Ayurveda? What is our understanding in conceptually as well as in practice, what we have been saying through centuries? How do Ayurveda principles help to prevent them? I think that is where the greatest scope is. And how do Ayurveda management principles help to treat them? Because of the time constraint today, we'll not be able to touch upon each and every variety of the lifestyle disorders in terms of the management. However, we'll be just touching upon the few areas there. So let's see whether we can start answering these questions, at least try to make an attempt to answer these questions. So what basically is a lifestyle disorder? It is a disorder, set of disorders rather, caused by altered unhealthy behaviors. It's entirely in our kind of range, in our purview. It is not out of our control. So the disorders originate here, are engraved in our own way of life, how we lead life. And that is where Ayurveda and yoga has always been, since sort of darshana level itself, from the philosophical level itself, have been focusing a lot on how we need to be looking at this life. Shall we take things for granted, or shall we go and explore them and understand them and deal with the different aspects of life in a more meaningful way? And if we do that, obviously we experience life in a more fulfilling way. But when we take it as the life form as granted, obviously we start involving in behavioral issues, or behavioral issues could come out in different forms. It could be excessive use of certain things, or completely underuse of our own self. That is what happens in our physical and mental activities. We start what you may call taking this life form for granted, and we start seeing that our bodies we don't use as much as we should be, and modern day conveniences as well won't sometimes let us to do the things we should be doing. So all these behavior activities, such as inactivity and unhealthy diet, they are all developed over a period of time. It's not developed in 1 or 2 days. It's developed, to be honest, the lifestyle disorders are not only affected by the adults, it's actually mostly affected by the younger generation of people, like children as well now. It's the greatest concern, especially in the 21st centuries. You must have heard of the word millennials, the people who are born in 90s to 2000, they are called as millennials. And those millennials, if you look at their way they think, the way they do things, how they look at life is slightly different from, I don't want to call myself old, but I am of previous generation in that respect, from 70s to 80s. So it's different. And similarly, people who are born earlier to that were looking at life in a slightly different way. What I mean to say is that the modern day has thrown at us a lot of conveniences. However, every convenience comes with a cost. And that cost could be more than just wealth-related cost. It is a health-related cost at times as well. And it is leading to a variety of NCDs, the non-communicable diseases, and they're also known now as the chronic disorders. So basically, under a broad umbrella, the diseases can be classified as communicable and non-communicable diseases, CDs and NCDs. In the previous, what you can call the era in the form of what we call as industrial era, what we had up to 20th century, the diseases were more communicable in nature. They were more infectious in nature. Before that, the diseases were, this is more of a contemporary concept. Before industrial age, the diseases were more war-based. The injuries and things, we used to go for hunting and warfare, and that was very common. We do have warfare now, but in a different way. It's more Cold Wars, and the battlefield is different now. Actually, literally, the battlefield has become everybody in everybody's boundaries as well, but in a different nature. So in the olden age, where the warfield and injuries were more, the diseases were more pertaining to that. And that is what we see, even in terms of Ayurvedic understanding. The Shalya Pradhana Vyadhis were more, and the role there was quite high. It doesn't mean we don't get injuries now. We do get accidents and injuries, but when compared to the infection and the non-infectious diseases, the injuries are much less. I will be going to show you a few slides and few statistics which support that as well. So this urban living, what we have in the modern days, and excess use of conveniences, the food is very easy now. We don't have to go and hunt and or dig and plow and gain food. You sit at home, you just take your phone, you order, and the food arrives at your doorstep. And that is where the basic problem lies. And we take that for granted. And many people, especially younger people, they don't even realize where the food is coming from, actually. They think the food is coming from either food store or supermarkets or from restaurants. They don't really understand every part of the food is coming from nature. That link is been lost as well. And that has led to a lot of unhealthy diet in a way as well, because what has happened when you manufacture so much of food, you want to store it. You want to think the food in a more commercial way. That is what has happened in the post-war phenomena. After the Second World War, there was a huge scarcity of food throughout the globe, not only in any one part, anywhere from India up to Australia, up to the other side of the world, like United States and United Kingdom and everywhere, Europe as well. So people started looking the food as an industry, and the local growths and things have been taken over at an industrial scale. And when the food is being manufactured in the industrial scale, we are actually overusing the nature. And also that food, what has been manufactured, needs to be stored. And the different forms of storages, not only raw storage, what has started becoming is that the food which has been harvested has been converted into different ready-made forms of the food. That's what we see nowadays, and which could be frozen and could be sold, and it could be the food could be traveling from one part of the globe to the other part of the globe. I can get mangoes any time of the year here, anywhere from any part of the world, from India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, or West Indies, or any part for that matter, even sometimes from the other parts, like some southern parts of Europe as well. So the idea of food has changed dramatically in the last few decades, more than half a century actually. And that has caused the manufacturing of the more processed food. The processed food is another major cause of the dietary insufficiencies, as well as what is happening is the zero calorie or rather rich calorie food is being consumed by people. I still remember in my childhood, we never heard about pizzas, but now I believe even in India, pizzas are everywhere. And what is made up of? It's wheat, basically, and especially processed wheat. And it's been so highly processed, it kind of triggers a lot of inflammatory changes in the body. Anything over processed is not good. That is why the Ahara Dravadravyadi Vijnaniyam and Matrashitiya Vijnaniyam, all these are so very important and so very relevant at every given time. And on top of that, rather than we being more physically active, we became more sedentary in our way of, attending anything in our life. Even the distance, say, for example, between workplace and the home could be less than a kilometer, and we still take either a two-wheeler or maybe four-wheelers most of the time nowadays, which has led to, and you go and sit down in an office, which is kind of, sitting down for 8, 9, 10 hours at times, which is not favorable. Our body is not designed that way at all. So those kind of inactivities have cropped up so much. And on top of that, in the process of industrialization of everything, we have done so much to this environment that the environmental factors have started triggering, and we all understand, I don't have to tell you again and again, we are part of this environment, isn't it? We have Deha Desha and we have Bhumi Desha. When the Bhumi Desha is affected, Deha Desha has to be affected. And that is what has been seen. A few decades ago, we would not have worried about how the garbage is thrown or how it is disposed of. Now we think about everything, and we have to. If we don't, we will be experiencing not only impact on the Deha Desha, the Bhumi Desha, even the Deha Desha is going to be affected, because we are intimately connected. That is the basic understanding in Ayurveda as well. And that has the environmental factors which we have thrown into the environment has been thrown back at us. And that has caused an impact on our being. It has impacted our doshas, impacted on our dhatus, and in such a strange way that the ama which is created, the dosha samurchana which has been created, is in an entangled way. Completely, the dosha gatis are in Piriac ways as well. And that is what translates in modern day terminologies as the immune triggering factors, and the autoimmune diseases have cropped up like anything. And also, for that matter, the cancers, which is an alarming rate at which the cancer is progressing at the moment. So all these environmental factors have also contributed with our lifestyle. So don't think that lifestyle means just whether you're physically inactive and you're taking the bad diet. It's what you do to the environment as well. So we got to be responsible there. And Ayurveda always mentioned this. Yatra Pinda and Brahmanda. The Pinda and Brahmandas are always connected, and we need to respect that fact. And we need to not only respect sitting and praying, but actually acting upon it. How we treat the environment and how we treat our body, both need to be in a similar fashion. When they go wrong, obviously, we see the emergence of these lifestyle-related or non-communicable forms of diseases, which are cropping up. And also on top of that, the genetic factors have contributed in the pathogenesis as well. See, the genetic factors are a fascinating thing. We think that we are born and the genetics is fixed. No, it's not true at all. When I was probably in my early stages of pre-university degree, in biology, that was a bit of an understanding. But later, in the last couple of decades, there is a huge the change in understanding which has happened. And what it means is that, yes, the chromosomal sets are there. However, the genetic material, the genes, what are they? They are made of DNAs. What DNA is, the DNA is a set of information, nothing else. It's a set of information which keeps changing according to what we do. Today, if I sit in front of the telly for 10 hours, that information is stored in my genetic material. Okay. If I go and run today for 2 hours, That information gets translated in my genetic code and gets stored as well. So these kinds of day-to-day activities, what we do, what we eat, what we breathe, what we consume, everything is coded in our genetic material, and that keeps changing the DNA. And certain things, including the environmental factors, including the processed food factors or inactivities and hyperactivities at time, all these can trigger a genetic mutation. And that is very possible, and that could cause various number of diseases. And that is what we have started seeing more and more. But there is a positive point there as well. If we can turn it around in a way that we change our behaviors in a positive way, obviously that genetic material, genetic information is going to shift. But nothing happens overnight. Everything is by abhyasa. Everything comes by practice. Everything we need to be doing more consistently. So we consistently be inactive, we will get the disorders related to that. We consistently being active, we can reverse those as well. There are examples now that even the diabetes mellitus, for that matter, the metabolic error, can be reversed, obviously within certain limits. But people tend to, even the doctors many a times, tend to get fixed with the idea that, oh, nothing can be done. That's it. You got it and you got it for your life. No, it doesn't need to be that way. That is what we get as a yapya. So you don't need to let a vyadhi to go into yapya stage. You can make, it can be krichra sadhya. The krichra sadhya should be made sadhya. And that is possible by a continuous practice of certain things, certain changes. Of course, the treatment helps, but it is left to that individual with the right support and aid. There can be a lot can be done. And that is what we are going to discuss today as well. So that is about the understanding of the lifestyle related disorders or non-communicable disorders or chronic disorders for that matter. So all our unhealthy diet or poor nutrition. See, please don't understand the poor nutrition here doesn't mean that you don't eat enough. If you don't eat enough, you will never die. You will only possibly die in the modern days by overeating. If we eat less, actually our body sustains better. And that is why, famous quotation in Ayurveda as well, kashyameva varam stholyat nahi sthulasya bheshajam, came from that idea that, and also all these santarpana vikaras, which have cropped up more and more, because our lifestyle has been triggering those. So unhealthy diet and poor nutrition in the sense you might eat a lot of food, but that might not have enough nutrients to support your own body. The nutrition part is poor. So you might eat a kilo of food. However, its actual nutritional value in terms of its quality of the proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and the minerals, as well as the microelements, the micronutrition, both macro and micronutrition have to be balanced. And if it is not, that is going to cause an impact. That is what we understand as poor nutrition. And if you look at Ayurveda, Ahara Dravyas and the gunas in which how the food needs to be consumed and understood and prepared, also focusing indirectly on the nutritional side of it. And when we discard that and we just eat whenever we like and whatever the quantity we like, it is causing a lot of issues. And unhealthy physical and behavioral activities, topping on that, is going to make a lot of changes in the body and in the mind. As you know, even in Ayurveda, we understand when we become, our cheshta becomes less, then it causes the kleda in the body. And that kleda is going to trigger the kapha disorders. And when the kapha is triggered, obviously the next dosha it will be affected will be the pitta. And when kapha pitta becomes a toxic mix, they are not going to sit idle. They are going to cause the margavarodha of the vata. And that can cause loads of diseases because we know about the vata samanyaja vikaras as well as nanatmaja vikaras. So all those changes which are happening at the mind and body, and it is a downward spiral. What do you mean by downward spiral? It starts with changes at the body or change at the mind. So body becomes inactive, mind becomes less active as well, because they have the mirroring effect all the time. Sattva and Sharira, they both are intimately connected. There is no separation as such. So they're bound to have the positive and negative impact. And when that happens, the mind makes the body more weak, then the body makes mind more weak. And that is a complex mix there. And that is causing a variety of lifestyle related disorders, leading to mortalities and morbidities. So it could be initially morbidities, which is quite quite a pain to lead a normal life, and later it might cause quite a bit of mortality as well, and complete reduced quality of life. That is where the problem is. A person may be living on medications, probably chemical medications or whatever, but with complete reduced lifestyle, reduced quality of life. And what is the impact? That causes a lot of cost to self, to society, and to the government as a whole. So the lifestyle disorders are the most expensive disorders at present in the modern day. They cost a lot. And with this emergence of lifestyle disorders, there came a new branch of medicine called lifestyle medicine. Even in the Harvard Medical School, everywhere they have the physicians have trained more into lifestyle-based medicine, which is a more popular trend now. And what do they do there in the lifestyle medicine? They deal with prevention rather than treatment. Treatment comes later there. They rather try to prevent the LSDs, the lifestyle disorders. And how do they try to prevent? They try to prevent it by the lifestyle modification. Does it ring a bell? It clearly suggests what Ayurveda has been doing for such a long period of time. At least it has been practiced. The principles are already there in the form of swastavrittas and sadvrittas. And there is a great scope there, you being an Ayurvedic lifestyle medicine personality, which could contribute a lot at the society level and make a change there. So you don't need to think all the time that you need to be treating someone who is diseased only. No, you can actually treat a healthy by giving the right kind of advice and right kind of tools. But the most important thing there is, as I personally believe as well, we need to practice first. If I don't practice, if I not walk the talk, I can't talk to other people. So I need to be practicing that as well. And that is what we will be going to discuss further as well. Another important thing is it a new concept, this lifestyle related diseases? Though it looks new, it looks relatively, even if you look at the textbooks of modern textbooks of medicine, there are new chapters being added on the lifestyle disorders. And however, this is never a new concept. If you look at our own Ayurveda, how and why Ayurveda came into existence, the very big question, the basic question asked at that time, why we are all getting, diseased. And when we look back those times, I'm sure you all have read that even in Charaka Samhita, the great conference, which was done by the great researchers and sages at that time. And they came together collectively to ponder around the idea how we can make people's lives better, because everybody started getting one or the other form of diseases. And how it started, it all started when people started colonizing. They were pretty good when they were hunters and gatherers, probably, hunting, and they were physically active. But when they start, because basically we human beings are very sociable animals, we need to come together to feel good about it. So that is why we started colonizing everywhere. The Grama Jivana has started at that time. And when the colonization begins, the little villages and the bigger towns and cities and kingdoms have developed. People have become less active, and the food has become easier as well for them. And that has caused a lot of disease causing issues. People did not last, they did not complete their lifespan as well. They started dying early because of the changes which have happened to the body, and started getting various different disorders which have been alarming at that time. And that has made the group of researchers at that time, we call them as sages now, they grouped themselves to make that conference to discuss and understand how we can manage this. And that is where the idea of the knowledge of Ayurveda, which is already there, always there in the universe, and we know how the Ayurveda avatarana has happened. I'm not going into the details of that. Obviously, most of you are very well aware of, but you need to look at more scientifically there as well, the Ayurveda avatarana, not just as a mythological perspective. No, it's a knowledge-based science. It's there already in the universe. Any knowledge which is already there, we think we discover it. We actually rather we find it. It's there. We go and find it. That's it. So that is what has happened with Ayurveda as well, to basically to treat the lifestyle related disorders at that time. So it was prevailing, this concept of lifestyle based non-communicable diseases, chronic diseases, for a long period of time in human life history. And it's only cropped up more in the modern days, because even in Ayurveda, they say the same thing. Every modern day is a relative term. What was modern 2000 years ago is obsolete, and what is modern today becomes obsolete after a few years or a few thousand years. So the modern day is just a relative term, and we talk about today's term, Desha and Kala. At this point of time, the emergence of these LSDs have been prevalent. Now, what are the most common lifestyle disorders we see, and what causes are underlying there? To make it simplify, what I have used is a picturesque idea there. The root causes have been given at the bottom. You can see the physical inactivity, unhealthy diet, and in the past few decades, the alcohol abuse and tobacco consumption have been identified as the more or the rather most common triggering factors to cause the various forms of lifestyle disorders. So this is predominantly from the World Health Organization perspective, and in the more contemporary perspective. But it's important to recognize them correctly and to utilize that idea to avoid them personally, as well as at the practice level. And what these do, these are the root causes which can trigger heart diseases, coronary heart diseases, ischemic heart diseases, various vascular diseases leading to stroke as well. Diabetes, very common. Connected with the diabetes are the overweight, obesity, and diabetes. That's as a syndrome there, and various COPDs, the chronic lung diseases there as well, and the cancers, as I was saying earlier. These have been emerging and been seen. I'm sure it's true even in India, isn't it? The cancer rate is growing like anything. We are more worried now about these disorders than the infection or anything. Why we are more worried? Because the coronary artery diseases, diabetes, hyperlipidemia, obesity complex, these complexities have led to hypertension and a lot of musculoskeletal disorders as well. They are also now called as the lifestyle related disorders, because if you don't use your musculoskeletal system in an active way, that is going to cause there are a lot of autoimmune disorders which have been cropped up, more and more, which we haven't seen in the past. So quite a few of skeletal disorders and COPDs, chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, and cancers. Now, let's look at why it is so important to understand the lifestyle-related disorders and what is the impact on us. If you look at World Health Organization data, on their website, they clearly quote 71% of all deaths which are happening in the world are due to non-communicable diseases. Is it not alarming? Only 29% of the deaths are apart from the non-communicable diseases. So that's a large. I was giving a talk, I think if I remember correctly, in London in 2014 to a group of practitioners and doctors. At that time, my data was 60%. So 2014, and today we are into 2020. And already there is 11% increase. So the death rate, if you take all the death rates in the world, it could be due to old age, it could be due to infection, injuries, trauma, whatnot, including everything and the diseases, the 71% of the deaths are due to the non-communicable diseases. So which is a large amount of deaths which are happening. We talk about even Corona now. How many people die of COVID-19? Very, very small percentage of people. But how many people die of the non-communicable diseases? Very high. And also, there has been a huge impact of Corona on the non-communicable diseases. We have seen here as well, locally, even in the United Kingdom. Initially, United Kingdom had quite a bit of number of deaths due to Corona. It's dramatically decreased. No, now the cases have been slightly increasing. However, the number of deaths have come down. So what I mean to say is that the focus has shifted to pandemic now. And this shift in focus from the medical side has led to the more emergence of the non-communicable diseases. Many people have could not be even diagnosed as cancer or hyperlipidemia or whatever it is at an early stage. And we missed it. And they will probably come back, and next year or so, we will be getting more statistical data where we will be realizing that what is the impact of Corona on the pandemic, on the non-communicable diseases. I'm sure the 71% will go up dramatically. So what I mean to say is that we should not lose focus. Yes, there is a Corona happening now. There is a COVID-19 pandemic. However, we need to still focus on the other disorders, which could be they might look chronic. However, they could be preventable and treatable at times. So we need to look after them as well as early as possible. So 71% of all deaths are due to non-communicable diseases. This was the old data I wanted to show you in the WHO report in 2008. At that time, 60% of the total deaths were due to LSDs. And at that time, they predicted that by 2020, 75%, which means 2/3 of the whole world population deaths are due to lifestyle related diseases or non-communicable type. It's alarmingly high. And that 75% is proving to be true. It's already, we touched 71 now. So by the end of this 2020, probably will cross 75% of the death, which are possibly due to the non-communicable disorders. So various different incidents. So obviously more than 70% of the deaths, and what causes them? Even today, unfortunately, predominantly due to tobacco consumption. I don't have to explain how bad that tobacco consumption is, especially to you guys, because you are in India, probably, especially places like Hubli, I know, lots of people still blissfully unaware and consuming tobacco. in different forms. It could be by smoking, eating, chewing, all different forms of it. And it is still a very high percentage of people who die out of tobacco-related diseases. And the next one goes to high blood pressure, which is another killer in the society there. And alcohol, it is another emerging trend that the alcohol has been a consistent cause in the Western world, but now in the Eastern world, including places like China, India, and other countries, the alcohol consumption has dramatically increased, and that has led to a lot of metabolic errors, and that is causing the deaths, disease and deaths as well. Physical inactivity. It used to be a small percentage in the past, but now it has increased. Less physical activity. I'll give you more data as we go further. Overweight and obesity, that is another emerging trend. It's actually epidemic. We are in obesity epidemic at the moment. We have COVID-19 pandemic and obesity epidemic. So both are hitting our population, human population. Related to that, even the other diseases like the cancers they are catching up as well. Various different causative mechanisms. Just to give you an idea, when I came to UK about 16 years ago, when I was teaching there, I remember the cancer rate, the statistics was 1 in 6. And somewhere in 2013 or 14, it has increased to 1 in 4. And now, today, as we are talking now, the risk of cancer here is 1 in 2, which means if there are 2 people sitting, there is a high possibility that one could be developing a cancer of one or the other form. We don't know which type. The similar pattern, this trend is going everywhere, including places like India. And actually, India is at a more risk because the environmental factors have contributed very highly there, and places like China, for that matter. So that is something we need to prevent. We need to look at more seriously and see what are the measures that can be taken. This report is from World Health Care, from the Apollo Hospital studies as well. And they come out with the statistics that 80% of the Medicare cost factors worldwide is due to the non-communicable diseases, and especially very modifiable lifestyle diseases. The deaths could be due to cardiac related diseases, cancers, injuries, HIVs and AIDS. Morbidities, the illnesses due to high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, musculoskeletal diseases, various psychosomatic diseases. That is another emergence which has started happening, especially even after this pandemic, is more, the psychosomatic illnesses and gastrointestinal and respiratory illnesses. So what is highlighting here is 80% of the Medicare cost is going to the treating the lifestyle diseases, which is alarming, isn't it? Only 20% is utilized for something else. The CDC from United States of America, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, they have a separate scheme called National Center for Chronic Disease Prevention and Health Promotion. And it says 90% of the nation's 3.5 trillion annual healthcare expenditure are for people with chronic and mental health conditions. See, these are all the data from today. It's not old 10 years data or anything, is as per today. And it clearly suggests the money is going into these. And I believe Ayurveda can help a lot at the grassroots level. United Nations, if you look on their website now as well, the lifestyle diseases are a huge economic burden to the health services. It is costing a huge amount to the budget, to the nations, every nation for that matter. I think I'll come to some of the Indian statistics as well. This is still the Western one. Annual economic costs of unhealthy diets. What is the cost of unhealthy diet? You got all the sources there. If you want, you can go and refer back as well. Anywhere studies from 2005 to 2012. In Australia, the estimated economic cost of unhealthy diet is 1.4 billion. And in China, 4.5 billion. United Kingdom was 8.5 billion. And now it's increased to 9.5 billion. So it's just people consuming processed food and eating in an erratic way, and what we call as vishamashanas and ahitashanas and ahitabhojanas, that is costing that kind of money to the society as a whole, as a nation as a whole. It goes on. It says about physical inactivity, how reduced physical activity costing the nations. Like United Kingdom, it costs 1.3 billion. Now it's going up to 1.6 billion as well. And in China as well, the physical inactivity causing 4.9 billion. And in the United States, it's in an upward trend, going anywhere from 90 million. Now, in 2015, the last figures came out, was 57 billion. So there's a huge cost involved with this lifestyle related disorders. In India, this study is from ICMR, the Indian Research Institute. In 2017, the nation's survey study states that 3 out of 5 leading causes of disease burden in India are non-communicable diseases. So if there are 5 diseases, if you take, which could cost to the whole budget or whole economy, out of 5, 3 are the non-communicable diseases. Because India was known, India, Africa, and these countries, because of the climatic change conditions as well, were known to have communicable diseases in the past, infections and things. But now that the whole scenario has changed, now we have got more IHDs, COPDs, the ischemic heart diseases, chronic obstructive pulmonary disorders are the leading cause of the morbidity and mortality as well. So Indian Council of Medical Research in 2017 says this. This was retrieved in January 2020. And if you look at the same figures in India, as you can see, the non-communicable diseases right in the middle, 46, which is about 61.8% of the total deaths is due to non-communicable diseases. When compared to injuries, only 8%, and communicable neonatal deaths, nutritional diseases, all are about 20-21%. The very high percent, 27%, the very high percentage is with the non-communicable diseases. There we are. That is another study, Indian study, which suggests, and which was published in the Journal of Infections and Non-Infectious Diseases, the assessment and analysis of lifestyle diseases burden in the tribes of central India. If you just look at them, the percentage of blood pressure, the people suffering from blood pressure is 20%, diabetes 24%, gastrointestinal diseases 25%, and some of the rectal problems, thyroid and renal calculi. See, all these are giving some kind of idea what Ayurveda has suggested as Ashtamahagadas. And those are all now seen as the chronic diseases, non-communicable diseases. Ashtamahagadas have been enumerated and explained well in depth, and we have been trying to treat them for a long period of time as well. And you can see the emergence of them, the rectal problems, renal calculi, so mehas, vatarogas, kushtas, grahani, all the different mahagadas have been emerging. This is the data, the current data in India. And when physical activities are reduced, you can see the emergence of various musculoskeletal disorders as well as respiratory disorders. The back pain is about 85% of people have experienced. This is a study where they took about 500 people as a sample study, and in their study, they have shown 85% of the people suffered from back pain, and about 54% had the leg pain. It could be, it's like leg pain is just a symptom there, and it could be any of the vascular condition which could be causing it. It could be occlusive vascular conditions as well, anywhere from Vata and that kind of state what we discuss in Ayurveda. Chest-related discomforts, 31%, joint problems, 38%, dizziness, again, it could be leading suggesting any of the cardiovascular or cerebrovascular conditions. Now, whether the lifestyle diseases are manageable or preventable, very interestingly, though the statistics and all look very gloomy that, oh my God, we got so many diseases out of this, but they are largely preventable. That is the positive thing. And we need to understand this. And there are a lot of modifiable risk factors related to the lifestyle related disorders and the behavioral factors predominantly. Those behavioral factors can be modifiable. So it's a question of educating people and set examples. That is what is helping many a times. These role models we call players, for example. It could be cricketers or tennis players or footballers or those kind of sports role models that could help to show people that look at the person, he's doing so very well in his profession of playing, just because he has improved his behavior in terms of the diet and the physical activity. Take, for example, Virat Kohli set an example. I think that trend started in the cricket from Dhoni onwards. And those can be helpful in taking and motivating people. So here comes the motivation there. And even for that matter, the film industry and those people, because people always look at them as their role models, and they also have taken up these things, the behavioral modification in a positive way. In the old trend was that even the Bollywood heroes used to be quite chubby and with slightly bigger tummy and all that, maybe 60s or 70s. But that trend has gone, especially in the millennium, 2000 onwards. If you look at everyone trying to be super fit, I'm not going to tell you that everybody has to be zero size or anything like that. However, that can be taken in a positive sense to make people, to educate, to make a change at their behaviors. So about what they eat, how they do the physical activities, not only that, to avoid tobaccos and alcohol consumption. That is one thing. Though it looks horrible, in the beginning of each movie, there is I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes clipping, isn't it, about the hazards of smoking and alcohol, and they show some horrible pictures of cancer growths and all that, which is actually in a way good to motivate people in a negative way, to show them negativity, how bad it could be, to move towards a positive side. So behavioral factors can be modifiable. They are the modifiable risk factors. Now the biological factors, which are modifiable as well. So dyslipidemias, hypertension, overweight, hyperinsulinemia, these can be modifiable as well. Just a shift in our mindset, how to be active, how to eat right is the key. And Ayurveda again has a great role here. And how to change the environmental parameters, how to, I believe probably even in India, I'm sure the supermarkets must have stopped using the plastic, once use only kind of bags and all that. Here it's completely banned anyway. Now there is a huge trend now to even change the fossil fuels. It's all electric now, the cars. By I think 2025, we will not get any more diesel and petrol cars over here. You can only get electrics. Already there is a huge trend. Of course, it has its own environmental impact in a different way, but it's much less when compared to the use of the fossil fuels, which triggers so many environmental changes. You know, the change in the Desha, Kala, Vayu, and the Jala, which indirectly triggers some of the pandemics as well. That's what we are witnessing now. So environmental factors are modifiable, and we need to take individual responsibility there as well. But the only difficulty is the unmodifiable is, or if there are already huge genetic change which has happened, and there is a genetic mutation which has happened, which is very hard to reverse it. There is a different trend of, you know, the new therapies and all that. I'm not sure how far that would be effective. But the positive thing here is there are a lot of factors which can be modified, and that can be can make a change in person's life. Ministry of Health and Welfare, Family Welfare, Government of India has loads of different programs under which the lifestyle disorders have been addressed. And one of them is NPCDCS, which means National Program for Prevention and Control of Cancer, Diabetes, Cardiovascular Diseases, and Stroke. Now, when we were in India, I left India about 15, 16 years ago, we didn't have a ministry called Ayush, but now you have. I think you can make a huge difference by utilizing that in terms of funding, expertise, and the plans, you know, the future plans, how it can be taken more seriously, the lifestyle diseases. Interestingly, I didn't see anywhere in the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India, a role of Ministry of Ayush. They didn't show anything there. But I think it's in your individual hands as well, being an individual Ayurveda practitioner and future practitioners, some of you may be, to utilize the Ayurveda knowledge and make more meaningful changes in the society, and to educate people even at the level where they are in. It could be their policymakers, for example, or politicians, and you need to educate them as well. But before we educate them, we need to make a change within ourselves. If I don't eat properly, if I don't lead a life which is not according to Ayurvedic principles, I'll not be able to teach somebody else. So how we can understand these lifestyle related diseases in Ayurveda? As I already started saying in the beginning, this concept wasn't new at all. This concept is the basis, actually, why Ayurveda came back to existence. There was a need, there's a great need of the knowledge of Ayurveda to come back. And because of the Gramya Jivana, isn't it? The people started coming together and started living together, and the conveniences have cropped in, and that has led to a lot of Santarpanotha Vikaras. And that is where I think the most of the Santarpanotha Vikaras we can correlate to the current understanding of the lifestyle related diseases. Most LSDs can be compared there. I don't mean to say the Apatarpanotha Vikaras are not at all, but the role of Apatarpanotha Vikaras could be limited when we are talking about the LSDs. Only few of the Apatarpanotha Vikaras, but most of the Santarpanotha Vikaras. And that is where the concept of Ashtamahagadas. Ashtamahagadas are only like a huge umbrella, but we can include a lot of other diseases which may not be even named in Ayurveda. It doesn't matter. All we need to do is to understand with the contemporary idea and to relate it correctly, what sort of dosha involved, and make your own Samprapti analysis and make the Samprapti Vigatana, so that you have that freedom. Never think that everything has to be written in the books. It cannot be possible. You can write your own new books, not a problem. You can include, you can make additions into the books, or by practice. That is the only way we could look forward. So if you look at the Mahagadas, they have mentioned the Mehas, all the urinary pathologies, including the metabolic pathologies like madhumehas and stuff, what we see predominantly, they are the lifestyle-related diseases. Udara roga, vata vyadhi for that matter. How the vata vyadhi occurs, mostly probably the margavaranaja vata vyadhis, occlusions and embolisms and stuff, those causing it, anywhere from ardita, pakshagata, and those are the outcome of santarpanotta nidanas and causing the vikaras there. Grahani is another very common, again, beautiful explanation in Ayurveda about Grahani. It's a syndrome, a lot of nidanarthakaras there. There are a lot of various types of what we contemporary diseases related to the gastrointestinal system, what we see can be seen under the umbrella of Grahani. And if you or we understand the Grahani correctly and Grahani Chikitsa, then those Grahani Chikitsa principles can be adapted to our needs, anywhere from simple digestive ailments to chronic digestive ailments, because we all understand through Ayurveda that the bala, the whole arogya is related to the Agni. And if that is impaired, everything goes normal. So we don't have to, or Oja, Bala, Teja, everything is related to the Agni only, and predominantly the Jataragni, and then into the Hatvagnis and the respective other Agnis. But if we understand the Grahani there, and it is more and more obvious with the current perspective of gastroenterology, where we understand that our gastroenteric system, it has a brain of its own. And I was always fascinated when I was studying, and also during my postgraduate studies as well, how these gastrointestinal hormones and gastrointestinal nervous system can be triggering factors to various other diseases. And as the time progressing, especially in the last decade, in 2010 to 2020, if you open up the contemporary books of medicine, you see that most of the disorders, it could be a very distant, we can call a Madhyama Roga Marga disease, or it could be even something like a Manasika Vikaras are rooted back in the Koshta. And that is what the Dosha Gati is doing all the time. See, we relate more and more and more as we experience it and as we see it. So Grahani Chikitsa and Grahani understanding of Grahani Vikaras is a very important areas there. Unfortunately, I can't go into the details of each one. Ashmaris, Kushtas, various skin manifestations, various forms of autoimmune based skin manifestations there as well. As we already seen, even practically Bagandhara Arshas, the rectal disorders could be quite prominent as well, related to the lifestyle related. Possibly most of them are relatively easy to treat and preventable as well. Some of the Vata Vikaras, as I mentioned, the Margavarana Janya Vata Vikaras, they have got the understanding or contemporary understanding of the LSD. And Ashtaninditas, for that matter, and a classic example of Atisthula. All those hormonal issues they have explained, and what triggers it is the Nidanas again. So going back to the causative mechanism, which is deeply rooted in Hidashanas and Ahara Viharas, which are not followed correctly. Certain Nidanas explained in the context of Vataraktas, Adyavatas, Amavatas, they are clearly highlighting without any speck of doubt. You can understand that they are trying to say these are the lifestyle disorders which you will get when you don't respect your activities, whether it is dietary activity or the physical activity. And some of the certain Nidanarthakarattvas, one disorder causing the other, also can lead to that. Now, coming back to how can we prevent it? How can we use Ayurvedic principles to prevent the lifestyle related diseases? I was always fascinated by the basic causes of diseases. And the basic cause of disease, Ayurveda always said, prajnaparada. And there lies the answers as well. You can elaborate that and use it practically in the field as such. Because without prajnaparada, probably no disease will occur, for that matter. It's our own error in judgment. It's our own intellectual error in judging something, whether it is appropriate or inappropriate. And that could cause the vibramsha or the impairment at the intellectual factors to start with. It doesn't start at a physical level at all. Nothing starts at physical level. Everything begins at that, the dhriti, smriti. When these three are impaired, it will cause the prajnaparada. We will make a choice which is inappropriate. So how does this happen? Why does this happen? We all have, the Atma, Sattva, and Sharira. So that is what we call it as the triangle there. So at the Atma level, Atma is a witness. He doesn't do anything by himself, but he's a witness of everything which is happening. So everything is happening at the level of the Sattva. So at the level of Sattva, these three gunas which are making the impact. And how do they make the impact? Because of the derangement of our own intellectual faculties. And what are our intellectual faculties? We predominantly have three intellectual faculties. One is dhi, which is our buddhi. And buddhi is, as you know, it's a karya jnanaha buddhi. So whether to do or not to do, whether to pick this food or not to pick this food is your choice. Nobody else makes that choice for you. Maybe in an early stage of your life, your parents could probably facilitate some of the choices, but end of the day, you become a choice maker. And that buddhi, when it is not used in a right way, we start making the improper choices. And that is the root cause of the behavioral problems. So what is the answer there? So we need to go back to that and to clarify the buddhi. And how do we achieve that? And that is where the various principles come into help. And also at the same time, the dhriti. The dhriti means it's your stability, your integrity, to be motivated in a right way and to make that right choice. If you're served a spoiling meal or a nutritious meal, it's your choice to pick which one you wanted. But you need to have the control of your own mind, because the mind, the factor of mind is it controls itself, isn't it? There is nobody else to control. So it controls itself. So which means you have a control on yourself. And when we lose that control, that is dhriti vipramsha, dhriti nasha. So that stability is important. And we need to bring back that stability in people. We need to make them remind of making the right choice, good choice, so that the prajnaparada doesn't happen. Otherwise, we'll keep ignoring this. We just read about it, prajnaparada, and we never apply it in our lives. It's not going to work. It needs to be addressed at the root level. See, when we talk about Ayurveda as uprooting the disease and all that, these are the factors, these are the tools which are already there in our knowledge-based system. We need to be utilizing this. And we need to make people aware that you have the choice, but you need to make the right choice depending upon your state of the mind. And then when the dhriti nasha happens, obviously, person is wavered and he makes the wrong choice. So that has to stop. That has to change. And then the smriti nasha. Yes, previous time I have eaten that and it caused some upset at my tummy, but forgot about it and going back to doing the same thing happens. That is what we call as addiction, isn't it? Addiction is the same thing. When the smriti nasha happens, it doesn't mean that smriti nasha is a permanent smriti nasha. It's not a complete memory loss. It is a transient memory loss. So I always speak to my clients, my patients as well. I use these terminologies, making them to understand in the current state. I don't talk about dhi, dhriti, or smriti. I talk in their language, obviously. And that is what you need to be customizing when you're practicing with your own patients, how you can, educate them in a right way. That previous smriti, which was there, which has caused certain changes in the body or mind, they have to stop and they have to remind themselves, yes, that alcohol has caused that impact on me. I had that hangover. How can you make that shift and make a change? And all these vibramsha of the dhi, triti, and smriti will be leading to sarvadosha prakopana and leading to the vyadhi. There itself, it gives a clear, what you can say, samprapti of the LSTs in Ayurveda. This is simple prajnaparada, a temporary clouding of consciousness, what we call your intelligence is temporarily clouded and making the wrong choices. But how to use it positively in the patients. So Charaka beautifully says in Sutrasthana 5th chapter, 103rd shloka, Nagari nagarasyeva rathasyeva rathiyatha swasharirasya medhavi kratyeshu avihito bhavet. So how a caretaker of the city or a king or whoever, how he takes care of different aspects of the welfare of that particular city. And that city is our own body, and we are the take carers, our doctors, our consultants, and those are not. Even in the Western world, I believe, and we see, as we see, they are there when there is ill health. When there is a disease, then there are doctors. But how to prevent, nobody's telling you clearly. So you have to educate. However, now with the lifestyle medicine, it focuses more on this. And this is where there is a great scope for Ayurveda. And that is what we need to be doing. How the caretaker takes care of the city. We need to be the right take care of our own body. We need to take the self-control there. Similar way, Rathasyeva Rathiyatha. So how the charioteer takes care of the chariot. If the chariot or the car or any motor vehicle for that matter, if it has not been serviced properly, obviously it is going to cause a lot of impact and it is going to break down. That is what happens. We spend quite a lot on our cars nowadays, even servicing. We don't service ourselves. So educate people that way. We need to educate them that you need to service your body probably once a year or twice a year using the right. And there is your business as well. That is where you're going to get your livelihood, and I'm getting my livelihood as well. So there is a practicality everywhere in Ayurveda. We just need to open our eyes and look at it and make people self-aware. That is what is going to stop the prajnaparada happening again and again and again. Otherwise, it becomes a habit. See, we talked about behavior earlier. So that behavioral shift to happen, there is only one way, is self-awareness. And when person becomes aware of himself in a right way, my health is my responsibility, is leading to the healing. So if he thinks, or if somebody always thinks that there is a doctor for me to treat, then health will never happen. That is not swasthasya swasthya rakshana. That will never be able to achieve. You have to make people self-aware. And this is where various different tools come into help. So as I don't have to explain this again and again, swasthasya swasthya rakshana is a great lifestyle medicine there. That's where our swastha vritta comes. It's a wellness-based approach. You're treating somebody who is already well or somebody who is relatively in a good state of health, and you want to maintain that health. In one of the studies I was looking at, 85% of the population was actually suffering the non-communicable disease. Only 15% of the people were actually following some form of, good diet and good lifestyle. It's alarming, isn't it? 85% of us are not following, which means there's a great scope as a well-being consultant or lifestyle medicine doctor, as a swastha vritta person. You could treat them, you could educate them in a right way, use all the tools which are already there in Ayurveda and yoga. So caring the health is so very important, and Ayurveda has always focused on this. If you look at uh, most of our parts of our textbooks as well, whether it is Charaka, Sushruta, or whatever, the focus is actually on the swastha. And then comes the vikaras, isn't it? The caring the sick comes later, aturasya vikara prashamana. So sickness-based approach or a medical-based approach, we as a doctor, many a times we feel focus too much on this. I think we need to take a step back and understand, and we need to understand Vyadhi Pratinika Chikitsa is only required only at times in a smaller quantity of people. But our focus should be on the lifestyle medicine or the Swastha Vritta there. The preventive principle in Ayurveda, it clearly says, tyagaha vishama hetum. So you have to avoid the vishama hetus. Samanam cha upasevata. Vishamam na anubadnanti jayante dhatavah samaha. To make the dhatu samyata, you have to get rid of or avoid the vishama hetus. And you have to keep taking the positive what you may call hetus, which are helpful to bring back the balance. So in a way, it will the nidana parivarjana, which prevents the dosha dusha samurchana to going forward. In the Vedic Kriya Kala, if you stop it at the early stage, it won't go any further. So what I've tried to do, because I know that time is short, I think we have already done just over an hour. Is it still okay for me to continue for another 15-20 minutes? Organizers, is that all right? I'll take it. It's yes, okay. What I've tried to do here is to outline all the different principles of prevention of Vyadhis in Ayurveda. So obviously, avoiding the Prajnaparada and building up of the Sattvavajaya Chikitsa, Dhi, Dhairya, Atmadi Vijnanam. We do a lot here as well, increasing their Dhi, Dhairya. How do we do this? The reassurance and building up that motivation is through counseling. You as a physician, you just keep talking to them in that positive way. Most of the time what happens in the contemporary practice of medicine, the doctor is not giving enough time to the patients, and that doesn't help. So we need to give them the time, and that itself acts as a Sattvavajaya Chikitsa, which is a great need for the people. We need to use the Ashtanga yogas, Yama, Niyama, Pranayama, Asana, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, those practices. I don't mean to say everybody will be reaching up to the level of Samadhi, but at least the first aspect of it, which are very practical. Dharma Paripalana, as we are talking about environment, using the environment in a right way, it's a dharma. It's our basic responsibility. The dharma there is responsibility, and how to motivate people in a right way. And the whole aspects of sadvrittas and achara rasayanas. Again, I wouldn't have enough time to go in detail about each and every aspect of achara rasayanas, how different activities we can involve ourselves in and make other people to get involved will help not only to improve their personal health and the community as a whole, as a society as a whole. Trayopastamba Palana, I will be focusing quite a bit on that one. And then Dinacharyas, Ritucharyas, Ratricharyas, various Rasayana Chikitsas, and Marma Paripalana. Ayurveda always focused on that, Marmani Paripalayan. And Dharaniya Vegas, obviously, you should suppress the Dharaniya Vegas and definitely avoid suppressing the Dharaniya Vegas. There is a lot of things we can understand in the Adharaniya Vegas, and we do use them in our daily practice as well to educate people, as well as use as a treatment as well. It could be Mutra Varodha or Purisha Varodha, most commonly, which is happening. And Viruddhahara, avoiding Viruddhaharas, Mityahara Viharas, and maybe there is a bit of a role to Daiva Vapashya Chikitsa as well, where there is appropriate, depending upon which site you are in, what is the awareness of the people, you can utilize the Daiva Vapashya Chikitsa, and India is a great example for that. Now, coming back to the Trayopasthambas, 3 pillars of healthy life, Ayurveda focused so much on these 3, Ahara, Nidra, and Brahmacharya. So Ahara here means the food and nutrition side of it. Nidra, which is another pillar, which is so very important to keep the circadian rhythm in a regulated way. And a very unique concept, which is never seen even today in the conventional practice, is Brahmacharya. Most of the time, the Brahmacharya, people just use in a very, what you can say, literal way, saying just celibacy. I don't believe it that way. I utilize it, understanding it as a journey. So what do you mean by Brahmacharya? Brahma, it is the supreme, consciousness. We are individual consciousness, and there is a supreme consciousness. So we need to connect back, and that journey itself is Charya, the moving towards the Brahma. And where you are moving towards, actually you are moving towards yourself. And that is the part of our self-regulation. It doesn't happen like that. It happens in stages. And that is where your Ashtanga yogas come into help, yamas, niyamas, why we need to follow those, that spiritual journey we need to make people aware of. And, in India, there's a huge scope, because you need to over-educate people there at all about them, because people are already aware of it. You just need to tune them in the right way. So the Brahmacharya there, utilizing the Ashtanga yogas, and what Ayurveda explains about Sadvruttas and Achara Rasayanas, utilizing the yoga in a right way. So yoga karmasu kaushalam, whatever we do in a higher proficiency, that itself becomes yoga. And that is what we need to educate people, that yoga, they don't need to necessarily do the poses only. It's about whatever the karma they are doing, they have to do it in a proficient way, in an efficient way. Whether it could be their profession, it could be their eating, it could be their activity, it could be their thinking, all of that, if it is in a synchronized way, that itself is yoga. And yoga samadhi, it is absorbing into oneself, and we need to allow people to make this happen on a daily basis in the form of dhyanas and the meditation practices. Chitta samadhana or chitta vritti nirodha, the mind, it just is thrown in, or it is pulled in all directions, and that is what is the causative factor of stress. We attribute as an external manifestation of stress. It's not. Actually, it's already happening inside, and we are ready for it. And any external stress factor becomes a triggering mechanism at that time. But if we are immune, and if we recognize how we can keep the chitta samadhana or chitta vritti nirodha, all the activities of the mind needs to be in a state of balance by daily practice of meditation. It itself is a practice of yoga, isn't it? Yoga is not just the poses only. Of course, the asanas and pranayamas have a great role to prevent diseases again. They need to be practiced as well. And how these can be practiced, as in Bhagavad Gita, it says, it can be achieved by abhyasa and vairagya, a slight detachment with the life. It's too much attached to different things. My family, my car, my everything becomes mine, and we get possessed. We need to step out of that, and these have to be in a constant practice. The daily meditation, breathing, or asanas, when they are done on a daily routine, that abhyasa and vairagya could act together and could achieve the results in people. The second upasthamba is ahara, food and nutrition. We all know ahara can be digested very well only if the Agni is functioning correctly. So we need to focus as a physician to making sure the Agni is in a right state. And when the Agni is in a right state, then the quality and quantity of the food. The Matra Shitiya Dhyaya comes in to help a lot here to pick what is the right quantity, helping people in a simple way. Oh, imagine your the stomach into three parts: the solids, liquids, and the empty space. There is no physical measures for that. It's all very subjective, very intuitive as well, and they would know. And that is how your satiety and center would know in the brain. Otherwise, it's addiction. Even if you're full, you keep eating more and more food. It's not good. It's adhyashana and hitashana, and that is going to cause a lot of armor in the body. So to educate people and to ask them to avoid by utilizing the right kind of food materials, which will help. And there's a great scope of different. You can for students, it would be a great job if you go back into even something like Charaka Samhita and enumerate all the ahara dravyas which have been explained, and figure out their karma in the body, their guna and karma. And that can be a good guideline for you to educate people more on that. And the timing, this is another thing I notice, especially in the modern India, we don't follow. In that previous study, which I have shown, if you go through that study, there is a reference. There is one data which suggests that in the rural India, people still eat only 2 meals a day. And that is what Ayurveda says, isn't it? Ahara kalas are 2 anna kalas. But nobody practices that in the urban areas, especially, and especially in these times. So breakfast, snack, lunch, evening snack, and then dinner, it just never ends. And it's too much eating. So the time of eating and the quantity of eating, both the kala and matra, both are so very important. And to avoid any kind of viruddhaharas there, and to eat seasonal food stuff. This is where this knowledge helps us a lot here, where we are practicing to not to consume certain foods and fruits and vegetables which are not seasonal. There's a great awareness with the people as well. They are quite fond of, even restaurants, for example, they prepare and they say, oh, this is seasonal. This is probably grown in this is autumn here now. In autumn season, there are certain vegetables they grow, and they use only those. And as the season changes next to spring, they use the spring vegetables and fruits. It's no point in eating anything and everything. There's a great role in Ayurveda. We know about the Rutucharyas, and that is where there's a clear indication about each Rutu. But we have to be careful, when we are applying these principles of ahara viharas in Ayurveda, especially the Rutucharya and things, we have to understand which part of the globe we are in. The 6 seasons, what we talk in India, is irrelevant here in the West, because the seasons won't go like that, and the months, and they won't correlate. It will never be, because we are not on an equatorial plane. We are more towards the northern pole. So we have to readjust that. So when you are advising possibly a Westerner who has walked into your clinic or in Indian practice, just think twice and just ask them which part of the globe you're from and what are the seasons like, and ask them, which month is what, how hot it is. And in Australia, it could be totally different, and in the United States is different, and we are in the other part, and we are experiencing a different season. So it needs to be adjusted correctly, the knowledge of Ayurveda there. Nidra, we can talk the whole session on this, isn't it? The Nidra, how important it is. And unfortunately, Nidra is something very much affected in the modern days. It could be due to various different factors. It could be what we eat, what we drink, what we are doing during the day. And people might not have the right quality sleep. And when they don't go to bed at the right time, so in that Kafakala, you need to be going to the bed. If they don't, their Pittakala starts and they become more aware. And midnight, it's not the right time to go, and you will not have a restful sleep. When the sleep is disturbed, the quality and quantity and the timing as well, it is going to alter the biological rhythm. And that is going to have an impact on our Agni and our hormones and everything, and can cause a lot of illnesses. and it is predominantly seen, including the mental illnesses in the modern days. When I say mental illness, I'm not talking about schizophrenia or anything like that, Unmada, Pasmara and all that, but the basic symptomatologies of the mental illness could have deep roots in the Nidra. So just to educate them correctly, and where required, you can use certain dravyas, starting from the ahar itself and then moving into the aushadha dravyas if required. So it's the role of dinacharya. Again, I don't have to explain how important it is to rise early. Again, depending upon which part of the globe you are in and what is early there is so very important. 4:30 in India is perfect because you're right at the equatorial plane. But 4:30 for somebody living in Sweden is far too early. They have to sleep a bit longer. So we have to readjust those things and according to the season as well. So Ushapana, the drinking first thing in the morning, it cleanses the whole system. Dhyana, Vyayama, because in the lifestyle disorders, that is another key thing. We all talk about it being Ayurvedic physicians, but hardly some of us practice this. It is very important to use the Vyayama in a right way, especially, even in a simple way, what Ayurveda said as Ardha Shaktya Vyayama. You don't have to do the full strength and cause more impact. Just the Ardha Shakti Vyayama is so very important. And pranayama, abhyanga and udvartanas have been given so much of importance in Ayurveda Dinacharya. A lot of Westerns practice actually, but I don't see that many Indians practicing, which is a shameful fact. I try to do it every day, especially Shira Shravana Padeshu, which are the key areas Ayurveda has given. Tam Visheshena Shilayat, isn't it? Shira Shravana Pada. Just show your patients how they can utilize that. Makes a huge difference to their well-being. They would sleep better. Their digestive mechanisms will be working better. The whole humoral activities, the doshas and everything are in a better state, and the bala is better at that time. What we call as the HPA axis functions better when you utilize therapies on the shira. That is why it's one of the important marmas there as well. So abhyanga and udvartana, where it is required, of course, may not be possible every day, udvartana, but abhyanga should not be a problem to do it on a daily basis. Udvartana people can go to certain centers where it can be developed that way. Kavala Gandusha, to keep the oral hygiene in a better way, which is very, very important. Again, we can keep long on this. Makes a huge difference. I do get quite a lot of patients who come regularly on a seasonal basis for Nasya only. It makes a huge difference. And then we ask them to take the Pratimarshanasya. You can't do Marshanasya as your treatment, but when they go back in their lives, they can still doing their Nasya at different times. Ayurveda has given various different times you can do Nasya. You can do Nasya straight after eating, after waking up, just before going to bed, after having a shower, and different times have been given using the Pratimarshanasya, which is very safe. Then Snana and Nidra again. So those which we have already discussed. So Rutucharya, adapt to the various Rutus correctly. And if required, you can use the dosha shodhana in the different Rutus, which can help in shifting the changes which are happening inside, even the metabolic changes which are happening, to adapt, allowing the body to adapt to the seasons correctly. And that is why you can stop the Rutu Kriyakala going further to Vedic Kriyakala. So dosha shamana happens. Yes, naturally there could be vriddhi can happen in the form of chaya and prakopa, vrittirhi dvida chaya prakopa bhedena, but it needs to go to shamana. And you need to aid that, you need to help that by utilizing the Rutu charyas, the Rutu related. Keep it simple notes for each Rutus and advise the patients. Another important thing is to dealing with the ama on a regular basis, even daily basis, as well as on a kind of seasonal basis, as well as annual basis. So educating people what is this ama is all about, how it leads to the manifestation of diseases. We all understand very well in Ayurveda, and the treatment for ama is predominantly Langana. It could be Shodhanarupi Langana or Shamanarupi Langana. If the accumulation of the doshas are in a mild state, which is still not potent enough to cause the vyadhi, which you don't want to, otherwise that can cause to the NCDs or the non-communicable diseases, you can stop it there by using the Shamana and Shodhana varieties. Shodhan Rupi Langana, you can use Vamana, Virechana, Niruha, or Raktavasechana. Raktavasechana, either you can do yourself or advise them to even donate blood for that matter. Shamana Rupi Langana, very easy to adapt to. Vyayama, Upavasa, I advise a lot. I mean, what I do is, I can only talk what I do. I do is make a list of things for my patients, not just herbs only. Yes, I do advise dravyas wherever required, but it's not about just giving the dravyas only. It is about advising how to do that upavasa, how to do the vyayama. The Atapasevana is so very important. We talk so much about vitamin D, isn't it? And especially in this particular country, it becomes that much more relevant. And even in India, for that matter, quite a few people might not get enough sunlight because they try to avoiding that. No, it's important to do the Atapasevana in a right way. Maruta Sevana, like walkings and the daily routines. And when required, you can use Pachana. And from this study, what I have tried to give you is the Rogarogi, depending upon the Rogarogi Bala, you can pick which type of Langana. Again, the same principle can be utilized as a Vyadhi-Pratyanika Chikitsa as well. Obviously, using the Shodhana and Shamanarupi Langana, depending upon the Roga and Rogi Bala, you will be picking which type of Langana you need to be adopting, whether it's Shodhanarupi or Pachanarupi, or Pipasa and Upavasa, if it is Alpabala. If somebody is already Vadita, if somebody is already suffering, having the illnesses, then you don't want to give them extreme Shodhana. You can still utilize the Langana. And if the Bala is Madhyama, you can go for Vyayama, Atapa, and Maruta Sevana. It's a practical science. Ayurveda is not just about saying theory only. Literally, you can utilize that, but you need to keep utilizing that in the patients, not just to give a prescription. We have moved quite away from that, just giving prescription only, or the 3 herbs or combinations or whatever. That's very old technique, I would say. Still probably useful in some cases, but I think you need to give more comprehensive list of things and explain to the patients to prevent the non-communicable diseases. Rasayana, again, another huge topic to go about, and how we can achieve it is by the Panchakarma, utilizing the Panchakarma in a right way, where possible. May not be possible all the time. Everybody will not have that kind of time and thing, but where possible, try to encourage people to have one set of Panchakarmas every year, at least once a year, as a routine, as many programs have started. I think being Ayush ministry involved as well, it can be more and more practiced there, which can be duplicated in the bigger scenarios as well, which after the Panchakarma, proper some Sarjana Karmas, which are pathyas, which are nutritional ways to get back to the normal dietetics. And Achara Rasayana, initiating lifestyle and behavioral changes. Initially we talked about lifestyle medicine, and what they do, they try to do what we call as Achara Rasayana, try to initiate the lifestyle change. But what I'm trying to say is that lifestyle change will not happen just by saying. It will happen only when the Prajnaparada stops. When that addiction stops, then only the change could happen. And that can happen when the mind is addressed, the Sattva Vajaya is addressed in a right way. Of course, we can use Vatatapika Rasayana Yogas, But it's impractical to just to think that I have prescribed somebody an Agastya Rasayana, he will be fine with his respiratory condition. No, it won't happen. You need to make sure they follow it along with the other chikitsas as well. So the Vata Tapika will have a good role. I mean, I don't have to particularly enumerate. These are some of the things we use generally, more, Aushadha Dravya, herbal based we use, Trifalas and Gugulu, Shunti, Haridra, quite useful in simple lifestyle related disorders. Just as an example, as a model, if you take Sthaulya, anywhere from overweight to obesity, we can start off with some initial lifestyle counseling and consultation, and to make certain behavioral changes. If we don't start from there, nothing happens. So we need to advise them the right kind of nutritional things they need to be consuming, because what happens is in Sthaulya, it is such a vicious cycle that there will be a Tyagni, because it's made this Avrata Agni, isn't it? So you need to utilize the right kind of aharas, which are guru in nature, which is very interesting, but it should be only guru to the Agni at that particular time, but it should not be guru to the body. It should not be guru to the mind either. So that element, probably what we understand in the modern days as complex carbohydrates and stuff, are another great examples here to keep the Agni, to rebalance it. So that can be utilized in Sthaulya. Then Madhudaka, there's a greatly, and a lot of people practice this spontaneously as well here, and we advise a lot, Madhudaka. It depends whether it is cold water or hot water. We don't use boiling water, but we use just lukewarm water and the honey in that. A tablespoon of honey in about 200 to 300 ml of water. And is a great contribution of Ayurveda, I would say, use of Madhudaka. Chakradatta has mentioned in great depth as well about it. And their viharas to be readjusted, they have to do certain kind of vyayama. It's very difficult for a proper Sthaulya person, or full-blown Sthaulya, to do certain exercises, but it is important to take certain steps and towards it. And as a therapy, you can compensate it with Udvartanas. We do plenty of Udvartanas as well. And how interestingly it makes a difference in their whole mechanism and whole motivation as well. Yogasanas, start with very basic asanas with them, even simple pranayama, because one of the most impeding thing in the Sthaulya is apnea, isn't it? So they can't breathe very well, and sleep apneas are very common. It is another alarming thing happening with the LSDs is sleep apneas, and that can be quite alarming state, and that can be reduced or improved upon. And I can't tell you enough, especially in this COVID situation, if somebody already having an underlying COPD condition, how difficult that would be. If they catch infection, that's it, that's end of the road. It's very hardly they could come back, because it triggers all immunological factors there, and the cytokine storm, and it's very hard. The body will not be able to fight enough. So it's important to educate them and treat. Even I personally take time with my patient to teach them pranayama as well. How to sit properly, how to do it correctly, how cycles you can do there. And that can make a huge difference to their lifestyle. Similarly, if somebody having COPDs, I don't know, maybe asthma, for example, that they can be very well benefited as well. Some of the Lekana Dravya Prayogas, which if required, again, depending upon what is available, of course, for you all, there is no problem at all. You get pretty much all the dravyas what you require, but be choosy using the correct one, because if your manufacturer has not used it correctly. That is the basic problem. And your source of dravyas. So it could be Trifala, Shinti, Gugulu, Madhu as Lekana dravyas in Sthaulya. Or you can go for, if required, the compound things like Navaka Gugulu, Trifala Gugulu, Amritati Gugulu. But never give for too long a period. I think it is very important to not to make habit forming. It's important for the body to be able to, because otherwise it won't act anymore. And sometimes some of the gugulus can act as a brahmana, and that's not going to help. So you need to use that to your advantage. Give a break. That's what I mean to say in between. Shodhana therapies, especially in Sthaulya, the Kshara Bastis, that Lekana Bastis, that was my study when I was doing my post-graduation at the college at Hubli. Again, assess and reassess and see where it is more useful. And the Lekana Bastis can be very, very useful and handy in treating the avaranas there. Great. I have tried my best in the period of time. I think that's hour and a half now. I really thank all the organizers, Dr. Prashant sir, and I believe there are other colleges which are involved along with Hubli College, I think Dharwad, Belgaum, Dr. Prasad sir there. And another college in Hubli, I believe it is Sanjeevani. So I congratulate all of you, and obviously the organizers as well, and giving me an opportunity to share my ideas with you all. Late Dr. P.V. Jaide Memorial Charitable Trust as well. I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has. Thank you very much.
So the session was really informative. Conduct of life is forgotten. There is no style for a life. There is only life, which has to be lived very consciously. Here are a few questions by Seeker sir. With your permission, I would like to ask those questions.
Please.
First question. There are some tribal people in Amazon forest. Even today, they are not exposing themselves to society and they are naked totally, living better than us. So please explain what is lifestyle then.
I mean, yes, of course, the tribes, they're more with nature, aren't they, than us. We are living in a man-made society, and man-made, more Gramya Dharma we follow. They don't follow much Gramya Dharma. They are directly in contact with nature. So obviously their whole activity or their daily routines are totally different from us. They probably will be more worried not to do excessive physical activities, probably. Otherwise, they can create the Dhatu Samyata and Dosha Samyata much easily because of the aharas they take, which are in nature and easily available, which are around. They don't need to export from somebody else or somewhere else. So obviously, it's expected that they would lead a better, what you can say, quality of life in terms of their own health. We might look more luxurious in a man-made setup, but they may look less luxurious, but they are more in tune with self. That is what swastha is all about, isn't it? Swa asti. So you are residing within yourself. I think they are more true to that. I hope that answers.
Next question. How genetic factors play role in the lifestyle disorders?
As I was saying, there are two ways it could have an impact. One is obviously as a bija doshaja, what we have hereditarily carried from our own parents and grandparents and the whole familial tendencies there. For example, if you take, for example, the obesity, if in parents, if one of them is obese, there is a 40% chance that child could be obese. If both the parents are obese, it becomes double, like 80% chances that the person could be obese, the child could be obese, and that is what happens. So there is a huge impact of that inherited tendencies. Okay, now second part of the genetics is how we shape our life, what we do. Initially, I think in the beginning of my talk, I was talking about what activity I do now, what I eat now can be imprinted in my genes. And accordingly, that information is traveled throughout, and accordingly, my behavior will be changing and my metabolism is changing as well. At this part, we have a role to play. We can change it, we can shift it, we can reverse it. We don't have much control on what has happened already, what we have inherited, which we have a very little control on that one. Apparently, you can do that as well by constant practice of certain yoga practices. You can change at that level also, but the studies have to come out more and more, and people have to practice more and more to be able to demonstrate that. But what we've already been demonstrated is that if I have developed a genetic change, that can be modifiable. Does it make sense?
Thank you, sir. Next question. We are focusing on diseases, but we are not readapting the forgotten art of leading life. What's your opinion on this, sir?
We have forgotten on the art of leading life. Yeah, I think that is the golden question. And the thing is, how do we, understand the life? And that is what the whole talk was all about, isn't it? How we can adapt and readapt and unlearn and relearn the thing, which Ayurveda and yoga already, they always coexist. Even in Charaka Samhita, it is there, even in Naishtika Chikitsa and things. How we can rememorize that and re-educate ourselves and adapt and utilize it. We have taken a wrong route at times in the modern days, which, we are getting a dead end, which is not going to be helpful.
Thank you, sir. The queries also ends here. Too much evolution, like agricultural, industrial, socio-economical, impacted reversely to the present generation where such lifestyle disorders emerged. Lastly, lifestyle disorder LSD is presently an important research topic. Your words regarding this topic is useful for both upcoming doctors and clinical practitioners as well. Staying so far and you connected with us to share your thoughts of experience, it means a lot to us, sir. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with us, sir. By this, we have successfully completed 2 sessions of Yugma 2020. Tomorrow, around 3 p.m., there will be a third and last session of Yugma 2020. I request everyone to please log in with the same ID sharp at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.